guys, what's going on? I'm Vile Self, and this video is going to be my review for The Amazing Spider-Man on the PS Vita. Basically, I wrote a bunch of point notes down, and basically just going to go through those, and at the end I'll give it a final score. I want to, just point out that all of the footage you guys are watching right now was recorded off screen. If you don't know what that means, basically it means I recorded my PS Vita with my video camera. So if the screen's shaky or off-centered, or if you see weird reflections or whatever in it, that's why. I apologize for that. It's not the greatest quality, but it was the best I can do since there's no way to really capture Vita gameplay like you would with your consoles or your PC. So anyways, I found this game was incredibly addicting. It took me about 10 hours to complete the story on Hero, which is basically normal difficulty, but I found I was playing this more than I was playing my PS4, and every time I wanted to game, I was just going back to Spider-Man and playing Spider-Man. I mean, 10 hours isn't a lot of time, but that's basically just complete the story. There's a lot of side missions and stuff like that, which add a lot of replay value and a lot of game time to this game. I'd say the difficulty level was probably about a 5 out of 10. It wasn't the most difficult game, but it definitely wasn't simply easy to get through. Some of the enemies were pretty hard. Some of the hordes of enemies you fight are pretty hard, and some of the boss battles are a little tricky to figure out. But other than that, the game's pretty easy to get through. The plot is a decent follow-up to the 2012 movie. If you've seen it, then you would understand the game a little better, but it's not a direct follow-up. It's not a direct tie-in, so you don't need to see the movie in order to play the game and vice versa. The graphics were good for a handheld, but not mind-blowing. The animations I felt were smooth and elaborate. There was a lot of cool little fighting moves and stuff like that Spider-Man does, and when he's swinging around on his web, he does some cool little animations and stuff. The physics looked and felt realistic and on point. It didn't seem like it was too over the top. Like, obviously it's Spider-Man, he's flipping all over the place, but it didn't seem like he was darting across in any type of unrealistic way. How wrong that might sound, since he's Spider-Man and that's so unrealistic already, it just still felt realistic and on point. The free flow fighting style is fun and reminiscent of the Batman Arkham series. So if you guys haven't played Batman Arkham Asylum or Batman Arkham Origins or Arkham City, the fighting mechanics in that game are very similar to the fighting mechanics in this game, which would be a good thing in anybody's eyes. Free roaming in the city and doing little side missions and hunting for comic pages for hours and hours and hours never really got boring in this game. I always had a good time swinging around. There's not much to do other than swinging around in the city, but it just seemed fun. You just got this freedom of movement, and you can go anywhere. It's pretty cool. The side missions were each unique and fun, and they added several hours of playtime into the game. There's lots to unlock, such as new powers, abilities, lots of costumes, character bios, those kinds of things. I found the boss battles were relatively easy, but each one kind of had their own unique tactic to be won, so they weren't just repetitious. Basically, they're all sort of the same because you only got a few different powers you can use, and each boss requires you to use those powers just sort of in a different way. Certain side missions, like finding all 700 comic book pages, was pretty tedious. Once you get down to like the final 100, they're difficult to find. But the thing is, once you get up to 500, the remaining 200 show up on your map as little yellow dots. So finding those first 500 is key, but even that's difficult. I'd say performance-wise, there was a couple subtle frame rate drops during fight scenes, usually with several enemies, usually upwards to 10-ish or more enemies at once on the screen. There was like frame rate drops here and there. Otherwise, it was pretty smooth. Certain things like the damage to Spidey's suit over time was pretty cool. Something that reminded me of the Arkham Batman series, which is another thing. Batman's suit would get damaged and ripped and torn as you go through the game. Same thing would happen to Spider-Man. Black Cat and the Lizard were the only notable villains, along with Dr. Smythe, that appeared in the game. There was a scorpion-like creature and a rhino-like creature as well, but they were more like prototype creatures. They weren't really the real scorpion and the real rhino. Some other villains include, a rat-human hybrid thing, a piranha-human hybrid thing. You got multiple forms of, robots and thugs and those kinds of things. Some side missions include taking photos of specific things around the city, taking out groups of rooftop snipers, which hang out on certain high-rise buildings. And some other side missions include rescuing infected civilians and returning them to the hospital, or returning escaped mental patients to the local police department. This game was surprisingly fun to play, and it was very easy to sink nearly 30 hours into it. I sunk like 26 or so hours into it, just beating it the first time. And that includes like completing all the challenges, all the side quests, collecting everything, basically 100%ing it. And then I went and played through it again on superhero mode, which is hard, in order to get the platinum trophy. And yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man was my first experience on the PS Vita, and I immediately fell in love with my Vita because of it. So I was like, I got my Vita for Christmas, and I was kind of skeptical what I played. I'm not much of a handheld user, but this game was so addicting and so fun to play that it gave my Vita true purpose, and it didn't matter. Like, my Vita came with Black Ops 2 Declassified, and I tried playing that game, and I hate to say it, but it sucks. I got through maybe the first mission, and I just didn't like it. It was just too boring for me. There's like, I don't know. It just seemed like a couple steps backwards in the eyes of Call of Duty, anyway. But I might pick it up again and play it if I get bored. But other than that, I'd say I would give this game a rating of 8.5 out of 10. It's not perfect. The graphics could probably be better. The gameplay performance could probably be a little better. Maybe the game could have been a little longer. Like I said, 10 hours to beat a game isn't that long. But it still felt fun, you know what I mean? It still felt fun the whole way through, and that's really what matters. So that's what I got out of it. There's not a lot of negative stuff I can say about it, other than maybe what I just said about it not being long enough. But other than that, man, I really enjoyed it. You guys see me, I'm using the Scarlet Spider costume through most of the gameplay. Oh, and just so you know, most of the gameplay you guys are watching now was recorded after I beat the game the first time, so it's all on superhero mode right now, so it's hard difficulty. So not that that matters or anything like that, but there was a pretty significant difficulty change from normal mode to hard mode. I did die a lot more, and have to retry certain parts a lot more. Especially some of the boss battles were pretty difficult on hard, because it's like basically one or two hits and you're just dead instantly. It almost feels like you can't really do anything about it. But either way, I ended up getting through it. I got my platinum trophy. I was pretty happy about that. And you know what? If this game comes out with a sequel, which The Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie is coming out next spring, so who knows? We might see a sequel to this. And if it does come out, I will probably most likely pick it up for the Vita rather than picking it up for my PS3 or PS4 or whatever else it might come out for. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. That's been my review of The Amazing Spider-Man for the PS Vita. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys got something from this today. I know this game's not new by any means, but it was new to me, and I wanted to do a review on it. So, hope you guys liked the review. Please like and subscribe, and I'll have some more videos for you guys coming up in the week. And yeah, thanks for watching. Vile Self out.